It was a crossing of a bay. I was halfway across,
Yeah.
many kilometers from the shore. Yeah, at some point they turn around. It's directly behind me,
Oh my
exactly
God.
in the line of where I've been swimming from. I see a little kind of lump of coral. Why is the coral directly behind me? It's a very volcanic area. So my mind in that moment thinks, maybe it's one of these like underwater vents things that
Ah,
causes so much life, etc. And they're amazing when you see them. When you come across them, they're teeming with life, and they've got. I'm pretty sure it's coral because it could be a chunk of wood. It looks like it's definitely a rock or a coral. And I keep swimming, keep swimming, keep swimming. Um, and then at some point, I keep on looking up and having a look at this coral, and it's definitely coral. And then at some point I put my head up and I realized this coral has a big old tail swimming behind it.
jeez.
And it's got two eyes and it's staring at me and it's pointing at me and it's coming towards me.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Today you're going to listen to an interview of one of the most interesting people that I know. One of my great friends, his name is Francesco, and we've been on many adventures ourselves together, from walking with a donkey through the Albanian mountains for a period to what was that, Mike? To him doing his own solo trips, either sailing across the Atlantic, swimming the whole length of Albania, taking a boat for the whole, just building his own boat and going the whole length of the Indonesian island. So actually swimming around an Indonesian island itself, completely solo with nothing else. You can imagine the kind of person he is to go on these kinds of journeys, and what kinds of stories you're going to hear and inspiration you're going to find in this podcast. I think,
Yeah.
Mike, you don't have to say anything.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like that interesting of a guy, really. Obviously.
Don't bother if you don't find
All of that
character interest. Yeah, all of that up your street. And for sure, there are some surprises in this podcast too.
And which is, I think, the most interesting one was him swimming across the bay and finding out that he's not alone.
Yes.
Bum,
Yeah,
bum,
that's
bum.
what it was. Yeah, exactly that. So we'll leave you to it. Enjoy the podcast, and any comments you have, we're more than happy to receive them and read them in the section below.
Suicide.
I'm pressing
Bisect.
record
Oops.
because every single line that's coming out of us right now, I think is a lot of fun. So I just started recording.
I was actually going to ask you if you had started recording or not.
No. I wouldn't do that without announcing it, like I just did, spontaneously. Surprisingly. Yeah.
So films about sex and suicide. There are some.
I personally have never seen any like that, but I'm curious. I won't deny.
Norwegian Wood.
Norwegian Wood. Is that
Murakami?
Is that made into a film?
Yeah, it is. It's not a very good film, unfortunately.
Awesome.
The book is exceptional, but the film is kind of, yeah.
Is it a Japanese film?
Murakami.
I saw a Japanese production, but it wasn't great. I think it was probably. I think so.
I think his books are very hard to translate into good, entertaining. Not entertaining in the sense that like a thriller or an action film, but like entertaining that's kind of like keeps your attention, at least anyway. Because the book is good at keeping your attention because it's the way. It's very unique.
It's well written.
Murakami's. It's well written, but it's written in Murakami's very unique style.
I would say that Murakami is the king of tension. For me, he's a king of tension. He can hold tension from the first page of the book right to the end, and it drags you along all sorts of strange storylines, which you wouldn't be willing to do with other authors so much. And he can make you go down some weird rabbit holes, like sometimes perverted, but you're willing to go down them because it's all part of this amazing tense storyline. Right. Well, so I guess whilst we're here, I'll introduce you to
Hi.
So I'll begin. I'll begin with the common one. Michael, aka Samurai Mike, aka Japanese Mike. He spends his weeks going around with a samurai sword, fighting giant fish and making sushi in Tokyo.
This is, you are stereotyping me so badly.
I think if that was your stereotype, you'd be extremely happy. If you were actually a samurai,
but now you're stereotyping me even more.
Fighting giant fish. I would love that stereotype. You can thank me later.
Well, I'll tell you what, that my samurai sword is definitely going to be used on you, like at some point.
Well, I don't know what that means. We started off with sexual suicide.
I'm going to give it to you so you can commit ritual sexual suicide on yourself.
We have also yeah, okay, with your samurai sword, and we have Francesco on today, and Francesco is another great friend, but he's also I want the story to unravel slowly. I think we just want to introduce you as somebody who is going to tell us some stories about adventures. And one with whom I've been on some fun adventures, namely walking around Albania with a donkey. But you've done some really fun stuff, and I would just want people, either just the audience, to have these stories shared with them.
Well, firstly, how many adventures have you guys been on together?
We, I think one grand one.
Is it the Albania trip? That one?
Yeah, basically the Albania trip. So essentially there, Francesco, so here we go. He was swimming the length of Albania, from the south of Albania into Montenegro, I believe illegally. And, and I don't know if you want to give some perspective. I think something would be really interesting would be to talk about,
So what do you mean by swam the length of Albania? Sorry. Is Albania
has a coastline of 400 kilometers, going from Greece all the way up to Montenegro, and started at touch Greece, turned around, swam the other way, and swam bit by bit over a few months. It took way too long, but yeah, up to Montenegro.
Why?
straight to why. Francesco, so I described Mike as a samurai killing fish. Francesco, you are the fish apparently on this podcast today. Swimming great distances.
No, I mean I just want to know why. I'm not as in questioning why would you do that? Why did you do that?
Yeah.
Why did I do it? I think I wanted something. I think, quite. Like, I think I decided and went within like 2 weeks or something like that. I wanted something to do in Europe that was cheap and a bit of a challenge. It was like at the beginning when I was contemplating to start vlogging, and I wanted to see how viable it was, and I had no idea what it meant to edit and all of the rest, and so I just needed a task. So I thought this was a good task to start with, and I just pretty much picked by going through the countries of Europe. I wanted it to be close, so Mediterranean was my thinking, warmer seas rather than Atlantic. I'm based in the UK, so you got to work out as a radius from here. And I wanted it to be cheap and a place that I knew nothing about. So Albania was.
Because I mean just to go off on, I think I first started before we met in person. I was actually reading one of your blogs, introduced to me by one of our good friends, Serge, and he was like, I know this Italian guy, he's completely crazy, and like here's his blog, and like the first article that I read on Facebook was like your encounter with a crocodile while swimming around like I think I'm gonna say Helmand province, but that's Afghanistan. Yeah. So
did I write something about that? I don't remember that. I must have done.
You were swimming, I believe, around. You were sleeping in, I think, the mangroves,
and then one of the days you woke up and you went for a swim around, and it was quite a wavy time, and it was big waves, and then you went under the wave, and then you saw this like crocodile.
Wow.
That's not exactly how it happened, but I often
Sorry, where was this?
This was a few years ago. Yeah, so the Albania. The reason also I was saying that Albania for me was kind of like was because I've done a big swim before, so I kind of wanted. So in comparison, it felt quite safe to go to Albania. You know, it's a nearby country. It's Europe. You're gonna get all the amenities and so on that you want. In Indonesia, it was a little bit wilder. Yeah, so the crocodile, good old crocodile. It's a good story. I've told it a few times. It wasn't so good at the time. I was crossing a bay. So I'd already been there for. I didn't know how much backstory to give here because there is a hell of a lot of backstory.
Okay, go for
it. But I'd just been swimming for a long time, and so you kind of get used to certain things. And I'd been there for a few months. I want to say 3 months already, so I could already kind of hustle my way through the language.
Which part of Indonesia, by the way? Sorry.
Yeah, so this is the northeast. It's an island called Halmahera, and my plan was to swim all the way around it. It's a big island, and it's got a weird K shape. It's in the shape of a K, like the letter K. And it's not Sulawesi, which also is shaped like a K. There's two islands next to each other, shaped like Ks, and one is quite a bit smaller than the other.
So it's next to Sulawesi,
just east of Sulawesi, exactly, and west of Papua.
Okay. Wow.
And yeah, so I was a few months in, and I'd kind of gotten the hang of swimming, and I'd kind of gotten the hang of things, and crossing a big old bay. I didn't know that there were. So I knew that there were crocodiles on the island because I'd gotten a fright a little while before when, a few weeks in, when I can't speak a word of the language, etc. And I'm just rifling through dictionaries when people are speaking to me, trying to pick out words. And someone says buaya to me. And buaya,
looking through a dictionary.
And then BBU. Why a crocodile?
And this is on a trip specifically to swim as well.
Yes, and it's not like I hadn't planned this thing. I knew like there were wild seas, so I looked it up. But I don't know about you, but I don't automatically think swimming in the sea. Oh, I'm going to encounter crocodiles. And you think of sharks. You think of jellyfish, or at least I do. You think I think of sea snakes. I think of several, or I thought of. And all of those I'd kind of made my peace with. All right, well, there's a small chance of this, but sharks don't like humans, and etc. You could get your box jellyfish, but you gotta be the one in a million. So it's all right.
This is your
crocodiles. Crocodiles, no. Just no.
And they would have to be saltwater crocodiles as well, right?
Yeah, they're salties. They're the big boys, and they are they're just nasty motherfuckers.
When you hear something like that, like apart from that risk assessment, what else are you thinking? Like, you still went for the swim, right? So then what? How did you?
No, I didn't. I started swimming the next morning, and I swam for like an hour and a half, and then I thought, "Fuck this," and I turned around, and I swam back. And then I spent a few days walking, finding out. I was told that in a nearby village, I asked around with my primitive, pathetic Indonesian, what are the crocodiles? What do they do? And people kept on telling me, oh, go to this village, and in this village you'll meet this guy who hunts crocodiles. So I did.
Oh wow.
And essentially it's not that he hunts crocodiles, he's He's got some livestock, and every so often the crocodiles fuck with his livestock. You know, they'll eat a goat or something.
Wow.
And so it's retribution time. He's culling them so that they don't become a problem.
Does he specifically try and target the ones that, if I guess it's not possible to try and target the one that actually took the goat?
Yeah, I don't think, you know, I think it's just, you know,
maybe you probably couldn't actually converse that to that extent, I guess. Like,
yeah.
Like EU retribution against that specific crocodile.
Yeah,
Do you tag them?
He does. I stole the line from my mouth. Yeah, no, it's just. I think it's just, you know. My goat's gone. All right, I'm getting one back.
I'm getting one. It's an excuse for dinner. Did you eat them?
And it's funny. It's funny because he calls them. They call it munching, right? It's not. What's the word for hunting? So it's not hunting crocodiles. It's fishing crocodiles. They use the same word, fishing.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's because of how they catch it, because it's caught in a trap rather than caught in a, like, not with a, you know.
That's kind of frightening though, because like when you come to open the trap, you'd have to, you know, it'll be there and angry.
I guess, I mean, probably, you know, they don't so much open the trap as throw up. Yeah, kill it, just kill it. But, hold on, I'm just.
So have you ever eaten crocodile whilst you're out there?
No. Buru, by the way, if you're interested, is the word for hunting.
What's the word for crocodile?
Buaya.
Buru buaya.
Yeah. And a hunter would be a pamburu. So
pamburu, okay.
Pamburu buaya, yeah. Is what they were saying, like in yeah.
Okay.
But anyway,
the pamburu.
Yeah. So I spent a couple of days with him looking around for some crocodiles. Didn't see any. I saw lots of traces and stuff on the, you know, tracks and stuff on the ground. He had a kulit, a skin.
Okay.
Crocodile skin of one that he killed before. Yeah. Amazing thing.
And so,
what was it? Large?
It was quite large. I think it wasn't a fully grown one. It wasn't, you know, a 4-meter beast. Anyway, so I spent a few days with him, and what he said was, you know, they tend to stick in the rivers, in the river mouths, blah blah blah. So my plan essentially became to anytime I was in Buaya land, or Buaya waters, I just swim out, you know, kilometers out and then across.
Wow.
That's what I did there. And so later on, so that particular time I didn't encounter anything. Later on, back to the story, it was a crossing of a bay. I was halfway across, more or less, several, you know, many kilometers from the shore. And at some point I turn around and I see a little, directly behind me, exactly in the line of where I've been swimming from. I see a little kind of lump of coral, which is weird because I'm swimming over deep blue, and I've been swimming over deep blue for quite a while. And why is the coral directly behind me? Now, my mind, I think about,
so it must be close. Fuck.
So I think about swimming on, but instead I think, like the cool thing about this part of the world, or one of the cool things about it, is that it's on the Pacific Ring of Fire, right? So it's a very volcanic area. So my mind in that moment thinks, maybe it's one of these like underwater vents things that causes so much life, etc. And they're amazing when you see them, when you come across them. They're, you know, teeming with life, and they've got a different kind of like flora and fauna to anywhere else that you'll see. So well, I mean, it's a few hundred meters. I might as well go back and have a look at it. I don't know how far exactly. I'm gonna guess maybe 100, 150. Like it feels close. So I start swimming towards it.
It-
And I swim a little bit, and I put my head up, and it's still there, and it's still exactly the same. Like, so I'm pretty sure it's coral because there's it could be a chunk of wood,
Yeah.
right? But wood would kind of sway a little bit, whilst this is dead still. It looks like it's definitely a rock or a coral. It's a lump
So
of brown.
the water is quite calm as well then.
Yeah, flat. It's a huge bay, so it'd
Okay.
be quite hard for the water to be
Wavy.
very choppy there.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's very flat. And I keep swimming. And then at some point, I keep on looking up and having a look at this coral, and it's definitely coral. And then at some point I put my head up and I realized this coral has a big old tail swimming behind it.
Jeez.
And it's got two eyes, and it's staring at me, and it's pointing at me, and it's coming towards me.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So what did you do at this point?
The thing is, yeah.
Go perpendicular to it or just swim backwards?
The first thing I'll say is that I don't think there's any feeling like it in the world. But maybe there is. I've never felt it.
Again,
other than this moment. It's a jolt of electricity. It's a different kind of, I don't know if emotion is the right word. It just feels different to every other thing.
Yeah.
The whole body feels like it's zing.
Oh, wow.
it's not. It's what different to just like a fear.
Different.
Really?
I've been in very fearful situations before. I get scared easily, but this was different. It's not fear. It's like I mean, it's obviously fear.
It's a very unique kind of fear.
It's not confidence.
Yeah, the whole it's just a zing throughout. Like it's a jolt of electricity that just
what does
shocks
it? Does it?
you.
Does it? Yeah, go on. I mean, like, does it make you feel like more alert to the situation? Or does it? Did it help you in that situation, or would you rather have felt on something else? Like,
I don't know about help. So at that point, I'm very sure I'm dead, right? I'm very like it's not an if or a but or whatever. There's an apex predator.
Yeah.
In its medium.
Yeah.
Swimming at me. Wanting to eat me.
Yeah.
And I am its meal.
Can we giggle? Yeah. Nervous laughter.
So I mean, what I did was, so I slapped the water. I yelled. I'm gonna say, because to show that it's I was a big animal to like I'm not afraid of you kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then I put my head underwater and waited for it. Essentially, okay. So when I did that, when I whacked the water and yelled at it, it did this this terrifying thing. So it's lying with its eyes just above, the level of the water.
Yeah.
And at the moment I do that, it just slowly sinks down.
Oh God!
Out of sight. And it's close enough. It's only like, I don't know, 30 meters away at the moment.
I could feel it.
Something like that. Very close.
Yeah.
But the visibility underwater is good, but not that good. So it's, let's say, 20 meters.
Wow.
So I can't see it. So I just see blue.
Wow.
So I just went, and I can't tell you. So all I was thinking, I'd lost my knife, my dive knife. So not that I've done much. So,
but still,
all I'm thinking is go for the eyes. If backs, thumbs in the eyes, whatever.
You're ready for a fight with a crocodile.
Good luck. Like, this thing is maybe a meter wide. Maybe more, maybe like it's huge.
Yeah,
it's
huge.
I don't know how long it is. But width wise, like it's a big mountain out of the way. Think of seeing something over 100 meters away, maybe 100, and it looking like a big old
Big
like
old thing.
Wow, fuck.
chunk of thing.
And these things are pure muscle as well. Like,
I mean,
did you
wouldn't
then
have stood a
lose
chance.
it? It just
And then I was just waiting for death, and didn't
it
come.
never came.
Never come. I have no idea how long I waited. It could have been 5 minutes. It could have been an hour. I have no idea. And at the time, I have no idea. I remember going through this process in my head. Oh, it's time to leave now. You know, maybe I should go, because at least I'm moving then. But how long have I been here? Is this a sense of like, have I been here 3 minutes, or has it been an hour? As zero concept of time.
It must
All
be
I
a
was doing
terrifying swim back. Did you go back? Did you carry on going?
No, I was halfway across, and the river mouth was closer to where I'd come from than where I was going. So I carried on, and I carried on and on and
that
on.
Must have been
and
a fucking. Were you looking behind you the whole way?
The whole way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck.
I'm just kind of like speechless.
I mean, for me, one of my biggest, I wouldn't be able to do that anyway, because one of my biggest fears is just deep water.
It's true.
Like
I remember we just swimming across the bay in Tirona here in Colombia. You were like, it almost finished me.
One gets used to it. Like I remember the first crossing that I did over Blue, I was shitting it hard. But you get used to it. Like after you've done it, half a dozen times, then it's kind of like, oh, okay, it's this again. So at first I would be, going, if there was a bay, I'd just swim by the shore and follow the shape of the bay. And after a bit, I'd cut a little bit, and then cut a bit more, and then cut a bit more. And by the end, it was just like, okay, I've got to get from here to there. All right, what's the straight line?
Okay, wow. Do you generally become less? Were you ever scared of the sea or being in the sea? And did you come to a new realization of kind of what the sea is? Because for me, it's still a fearful place where it can get wavy and you stand no chance.
I don't want to over. So my realization of what the sea is that it's a lot of water.
And a potentially dangerous place.
Yeah.
You realize that the dangerous things in general are not the animals. I mean, obviously that's the counterexample. But it's the elements themselves. It's the wind and the currents. They will much more likely fuck you, much more likely kill you than anything else.
That's the fear I have. Like I was just a very short story on my part. Like I was out with my cousin on one of our first kayak trips in Croatia, and it was open. We were crossing between the mainland and this island, and in between was this huge amount of water, and you could, like, south there was nothing until North Africa. So there was nothing in the way from where we were in that part of the Mediterranean. And as we were coming back from this island, a storm kicked up in the waves, and we were we didn't plan it out so well. We didn't have life jackets or anything, and storm kicked up, and there were these immense waves. I mean, the kayak was basically a surfboard at some point, just sliding across these waves. We managed to, obviously I'm here, we managed to make it back, but that was really, really frightening, like, because I mean, I'm not a very, very strong swimmer. I'm not a good swimmer at all. And especially as we came closer to coming to shore, we crossed a part that we could see the waves slamming up against these cliffs, and I don't know how high they were, like 10-15 meters. You can just see the water rushing up the cliff and then falling back down.
Yeah, that sounds terrifying.
It was probably the closest I've ever felt that I came to the elements.
I mean, I don't have any similar anecdotes.
No,
I don't have any similar anecdotes to you guys, because I try and avoid those situations, especially involving like deep blue sea.
Respect, major respect.
Yeah.
But my younger brother has one which is very kind of similar to that. It was because he did his gap year in South Africa. Have you heard the story? and
Couldn't
he
tell
went
me.
out. He went out diving or spearfishing with one friend of theirs. Him and his friend went out with one other guy who regularly goes spearfishing. And I think at some point he was out in the water, and him and his friend lost because the water got really choppy, and lost sight of the other guy and the boat, and they couldn't find him or the boat at all. And they were out in the sea off the coast of South Africa, quite far out.
Yeah, it's a rough
And
sea
they were
down
like, we got to swim back. And I think he was like a long way out. He couldn't see at first, like the coast. And I can't remember if it was him telling me this or if it was my brother or my mother telling me the story secondhand. So maybe I'm paraphrasing a bit, but I think he was, apparently he looked down and he could see, like, because it was deep blue as well, maybe like some shadows or something like that. If it was me, I would just give up and I'd just give up on life there.
That's it. If it takes me to the Antarctic, I let the waters take me.
off the coast of South Africa, there are great whites which sometimes mistake surfers for seals, and they hunt seals by jumping out of the water. And all I see when I'm swimming in deep water, because obviously I have done it before, but it's just this image of a great white shark.
Jaws.
Like the face just speeding up from the depths. That's all. If I was in my little brother's position at the time and swimming back, that's all I would see looking down.
So he swam back to shore?
Yeah, they swam back to shore.
He couldn't see land at first. How did he navigate? Was the sun out? Was he able to just do it like that?
That's a good point, actually.
Because not seeing
maybe they could see land. Maybe they could just.
And how do you know which way you're swimming then? Because if you can't see the land,
they probably could see land, but just like very far.
Yeah, very very small. Yeah.
Because that would be risky. Just swimming. Let's just go that way.
Also, there is no direction. If you don't know the direction, there is no direction, because you end up swimming in circles and stuff. You can't. It's impossible to hold a straight line.
Oh yeah. My God. See, this is why I don't like going out into deep water.
But if you got the sun, it's okay. If you've got some kind of reference, any kind of reference, then you can do it. But
what would you consider? Yeah, go on. I was going to ask, like, what? So when it comes to the elements, like taking your way over open water, or why do you have a particularly bad time with that? Like, was there one time where it was particularly bad? Or because I know you've done some rowing, and you even crossed, I think, some of the straits in Indonesia as well with a canoe. Like I think the Wallace Strait or something, right? And which is pretty harsh torrent of water. So yeah, that's the question.
Any specific times? I don't know. Look, every time is straits are bastards. You've got to be very careful with them.
Okay.
You got too large. I mean, the thing about straits is that you've got two large masses of water either side, and water normally wants to go from point A to point B because of the ocean currents. And when you get a strait, all that massive, huge mass of water is trying to get through this little funnel to get out the other side. But there's also the tides to consider. So sometimes, the tides will mean that one part of the ocean is higher than the other. And so depending on where the moon is, one side of the ocean is going to be higher than the other. So one side,
it's like flowing
either
down.
the water is rushing one way, or it's rushing the other way, or it's kind of slowing down in the middle before rushing the other way.
Okay.
So you've got to use that.
That's tricky.
These don't sound
very
like
tricky.
ideal canoeing. why did
So
you decide?
let's
to canoe?
let's give the backstory on this, if you want. Like, I think
it sounds like there are lots more safer places to go paddling. Or
Yeah, but at the same time, it's quite interesting that, right? So if you're presented with the challenge of it, then you've got to find out solutions around it.
So what was the reason for deciding to go on that particular trip?
Where was it exactly? And
So this is the southeastern islands of Indonesia. They're called the Lesser Sunda Islands. They stretch from just east of Bali, so at Lombok, which is fairly well known, and then further east from there. So it's Lombok, Sumbawa, Komodo, and the other little islands in between, Flores, and a couple of other islands at the end.
Okay.
Like Adonara, and
so
all the way
it's
to
a stretch
Alo.
of islands
Alo
that kind of like goes eastward.
It stretches out towards Australia.
I thought the Wallace Straits was the strait in between Borneo and Sulawesi, with like two big, larger land masses.
It's a good question. I have no idea. I don't.
Let me check
So
it out.
what the Wallace line is a line which divides. So the Wallace line is interesting because it divides. I think it probably does pass east of Borneo or west of Borneo. Maybe west of Borneo. I reckon it's west of Borneo. Anyway, and it divides. It's kind of like the lands. No, it would be east. Obviously, it would be east because Borneo was connected. The lands that were connected
Pre-Ice Age.
before so during the Ice Age.
So we talked about this on previous ones. So it all used to be called one big landmass called Sunderland, I think, and I think it's had various fluctuations of flooding and then.
Actually, I think I threw this conversation up by using the term Wallace Strait. It is the Wallace Line, and that is, to do with the biodiversity of one group of animals and plants and flora and fauna, which is kind of like Asian related on one side of this small strip of water. The other side is all kind of Australian marsupial, a whole other biodiversity. So and these animals can traverse the Strait of Water, and the Strait of Water is not called the Wallace Strait. I don't know. Do you know what it's called, anyone?
Okay.
Well, there's various straits there.
Okay, there's various straits. Makes sense.
Yeah, because obviously there's all the little islands. So there's the Bali to Lombok one, which is called probably Bali Strait. I don't know.
Okay.
What's the Sunda Strait? Anyway, doesn't matter.
And you went across all of these straits, by the way.
I started from Lombok, so I didn't do Bali to Lombok.
Okay.
But
did you have one boat?
One canoe? Yes.
One canoe, sorry.
Yeah.
Like a dugout canoe, right?
Dugout canoe, built it in Lombok.
You built it yourself?
I found a boat builder who knew what he was doing, and I would try. I was the ambitious child, like, come on, I want to do it too. And I'd hack away at something for half an hour, and he'd come along and kind of like, yeah, you're doing all right. In 5 minutes he'd do as much work as I'd done and better.
I remember there was this hilarious moment. Sorry, I don't need to cut you something, but with that canoe, when it was almost complete, there was a giant, because of the way the wood was, there was a giant hole in the side which she had to fill in with with resin.
And the hole wasn't in the side; it was right underneath where I sit. It's not where you want a hole. He was an absolute character. His name is Yusin. He was such a legend, but also as strong. I had to fight with him, not physically, but I had to. Come on.
No, I mean, the timelines
in other parts of the various parts of the world can be very, very difficult to have people stick to. It's just culturally, like it's just not German enough.
Yeah, it's partly the timelines, partly like, sometimes not telling me straight what's going on.
That's terrible.
Yeah, several things, but that's who he is, and he was brilliant. So yeah, the reason for that trip was kind of to explore that idea of because of the Sunderland and the Wallace Strait, and so these lands were disconnected. And as far as we know, this is the first evidence that we have of humans crossing the sea, or at least becoming seafaring. There's maybe a few other possibilities of where the humans crossed the sea and then forgot how to do it. I think they talk about Crete.
Okay.
But I think
really
all of them are a big debate.
Okay.
Did it happen? Did it not? Exactly when is this? Is this shard of rock really smashed by a human? Or
okay.
In the Sundas, humans crossed, and they crossed, and they became seafaring. Like they kept it,
because
and they still have.
Because
there are populations that still like are from those genealogies. Still carry. If you think of the Polynesians and the Micronesians, etc. The great sailors of the seas. At least with primitive technologies, let's say. It's them, and it's the same. It's those peoples.
This like one of our early episodes, we actually came across like the Austronesian people, and that completely blew my. I think it's related. It's exactly related to the Sunda people as well. Like that population on these Indonesian, Polynesian islands, and I had no idea until we had that episode that there was so much seafaring so early on. They were like crossing the Pacific, incredible, like a whole civilization based on seafaring, and they were moving around like different domesticated, cultivated like foods as well from one part to the other. It's just mind blowing how
it's a nice little connection, isn't it? That we're getting between our podcasts. But I mean, I guess it's not. What is that known because there's no other way that the Aboriginals could have gone to Australia, and there must have been seafaring.
Pretty much,
or is
it? Pretty much. It's so the earliest Aboriginal art is something like 50,000. 50. Wow. Some people say 60,000. So it's super old.
I recently read that there's a place. I think it was on the BBC. Like someone had recently, one scientist or anthropologist had recently been given access to this kind of secret location in Australia where they have thousands of pieces of Aboriginal art which date back 50, some maybe 60,000 years ago. And it's a very secret place, and they've got artwork of turtles, of kangaroos, of larger extinct marsupials as well. And so I guess and that's how they know that there must have been seafaring people that long ago to come across over.
Sure. So, they lost the seafaring. The Aborigines lost it because they got there, and then they found this huge land full of bounty, and they did their thing. Like exactly. So it's essentially it's the spread of humanity. It's the spread of
is that kind of the reason why is that something you discovered along the way?
No, that's the reason I went out there.
Okay, that's the reason.
Very much, primary idea, like, what were these lands like? That were
what would
once...
it have been like to have
I mean,
part of the spread of humanity?
Kinda, one can't know. How can you project your mind into someone who lived 70,000, 80,000 years ago? but yeah, I mean,
I guess something like crossing a strait in a canoe, in a dugout canoe, would be equally as primal though. That would have been a similar experience because the water hasn't changed and the canoe hasn't changed, and you're a human being too. So
definitely, I was trying to go for that. It's not exactly right to say any of those things. The water has changed because the islands have changed in size and shape and dimensions, and the oceans have changed in terms of where the current it has changed. The lands have changed in terms of flora and fauna. It would have been a lot cooler back then. Certain places which are now savanna would have been dense forest, etc. No matter what, no matter how much you try to, keep everything the same. The canoe, it's not like my canoe is a 60,000-year-old technology. Back then, the first boats, the first thing, there's a land over there in the distance. I'm thinking, I'm a human, I want to cross it. What do? Am I going to carve this like beautifully hulled boat, with outriggers, etc.? We don't know, but almost certainly not, right? It's very likely that it would have been much
more like a raft.
Yeah.
Raft.
But yeah, I wasn't going to do it on a raft, is my point, and I was still trying to kind of you can never hit perfect one-to-one representation. Obviously my canoe was definitely tens of thousands of years old in terms of technology,
what so you had outriggers on this canoe. When you're crossing a strait or when the water's really complex, do the outriggers kind of help, or are they just more surface area to kind of be caught by various currents?
The outriggers are for balance. Canoes are horribly uncomfortable things to balance in a sea that throws you around. They slow you down a lot because it's extra surface area. So ideally you want the outriggers to be just kind of like skimming above the surface. So as soon as it's off balance, it kind of like catches it again and lifts it back up, almost like wings. But it's it's extra bulk, extra everything. I had to battle with my outriggers. I changed a lot of the boat as I went, which it's annoying because I'm making a film right now I've been making it forever, but I've made a film about it, which is almost finished. Always almost finished. And I don't really get to talk, like part of the fun of it was working all of this stuff out, because although Yusin is obviously a very competent canoe builder, and he didn't build a perfect canoe. Like that was far from a perfect canoe. First off, the wood was all wrong.
Why was it too dense?
It absorbed a lot of water. It was it was light. It's a nice light wood, sukun. It's breadfruit. But it absorbs a lot of water. So there's other woods.
Is that what the canoes are usually made out of there, or is it because he just kind of like had to make one quickly for you or something that
it's kind of that. It's kind of not that. So the ideal wood that they love to use is a thing called suren, but a lot of the suren trees are in the rainforest, so they're out of bounds. You can't chop down anything from the woods. So the only things that you can chop down are things that are in people's gardens. So we used a breadfruit, which they say is second best. I don't know how true or untrue that is.
Did you have to pay for the whole breadfruit tree then?
Yes.
You have to pay like I want that whole tree to come. I have to pay for that and all the breadfruit that's on it, please.
But yeah, you learn quite a bit about the boat and how it wants, how it works and how it wants to work, etc.
Okay.
It's yeah.
What was the largest stretch of water that you went across with it?
That would have probably been the Komodo Strait, and that was, I have no idea, 20 kilometers, something like that. Let's have a look.
By the way, at the end of the Komodo Strait, I'm guessing there's Komodo Island, right?
That's in the middle.
That's in the middle.
Is of Komodo
Did you
Strait.
stay on Komodo Island at all?
I did, yeah. Very interesting part of
Komodo dragons.
I did. It was very interesting.
Okay. I think yeah.
I would say that I would love to see Komodo dragons, but that, I guess, maybe I would be naively saying that, but
I think if you were camping out on an island with Komodo dragons, that's
according to this, the longest like just open water that I did was only 15 kilometers.
Still seems quite a long.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't have wanted to do much more than that, because that was already. So it's possible that I did more, but it wouldn't have been open water, or I definitely did more. But it wouldn't have been open water. Just the
long bays.
Two chunks of land. Yeah, no.
You didn't need to get any permissions or anything to do this, did you? You could just literally go by.
I didn't ask. Don't ask. Never ask.
Okay.
Never ask if you. Who cares? I didn't know.
It's true. It's true. And how was it like?
It has to be that in Western countries you have to ask for permissions for everything, and everyone's very attentive.
People check as well.
Around the world, where sometimes, especially in developing countries, who knows exactly what the rules are, etc. Forget it. If you ask, you might not be allowed to go. So if the difference is paying 100,000 rupees, what is that? 20 quid or whatever. 5 quid. Then who cares?
Yeah.
But if the difference is no, you absolutely can't go, and then you've been warned. If you've been warned and then you do it anyway, and then you get caught, there's no like trying to wash your hands of it and saying
exactly.
That
was the most Italian moment.
I've been waiting for the Italian side to come out.
It's coming out now.
The hands are flying around.
I didn't know.
Never ask unless if there's a place that you're going to get in serious trouble. I wouldn't. Don't fly a drone in Iran.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, Indonesia, there's rules can kind of be bent a little bit, etc. So
how was it like stumbling across? So you went island to island. Of course, you just arrive on an island like bloody Captain Crusoe, I guess, and just here I am. How did people receive you? Did you often like arrive in places where there were people, or was it just empty?
Yeah, mostly people. Probably 2/3 to 1/3 people versus non-people.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, lovely, absolutely lovely. I speak the language now, so I spent I swam around the island the first time, and they were lovely then when I was only getting through learning the language. After a while, I mean, even during that, people are so keen on getting to know you and questioning you, where you from, do you have a wife, do you have like all the questions. So you learn very, very quickly to communicate, and then to have a laugh, because they're super friendly and so on. And so in a way it was quite safe to go. I mean,
nice
to go there for that. And so I mean, people wise, it's very, very safe. Indonesia is I get the impression that Southeast Asia is an extraordinarily safe place to go. I mean, in certain places you might get something stolen or whatever, but it's very, very safe.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like Colombia is a very different story. I mean, I'm based in Colombia, and it's quite a different story here. Like you go into the wrong patch of the country, and there's like militias, guerrillas, narcos. You know, there's people disappearing all the time, like that are going into the just wandering off. And yeah, I mean,
No,
that's the nature of it here.
I spent some time on Sumatra, and I had a very similar experience with the people, I would say, as well, that everyone was very nice.
That's fantastic.
And made, people that you would just meet quite randomly. I think just someone that was working at the hotel, this very, very basic hotel. I mean, I think I remember opening the door and bats flew out because they're roosting in the corner. And basically took us around all of the central part and up to north of Sumatra, and then took us to like this big lake where there's a island in the center of it.
Is that Toba?
The lake,
Michael.
Possibly. The largest lake in Sumatra, at least.
Anyway. Yeah, I think it must be Toba. It's a big deal, that lake, because of the yeah, it is. Because it's where it was the biggest eruption that humans have ever experienced. Around it was like the whole thing was a big old.
Wait, so that lake is inside a volcano then?
Yes, yeah. So the lake is the volcano. The lake is
and there's a big island in the center of it, and we stayed on that island.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah,
which volcano is that?
Toba, Toba.
Yeah,
74,000 years ago, something like that. It's more than that. It's one of those super volcanoes. It's by far the biggest eruptions humans have seen, and it kind of threw ash into like for years, and global winters, and killed everyone on Sumatra, kind of thing, or killed just about everything.
Jeez. But you actually went. There was a grand eruption whilst you were there as well, right?
On Bali, yes. The Gunung Agung is the name of Agung. It's one of it's the main island on the main volcano on Bali. And it blew up in a way that it hadn't done in can't remember how many years.
Thousands.
And no. Hundreds. It was either decades or hundreds.
Okay.
But they thought that it might have gone quite a bit bigger as well, which would have caused a lot of damage. But instead it quietened down and chilled out after a bit.
Okay, cool. Cool. And
well, there was one recently as well, wasn't there? Which the explosion could be seen from space and satellites as well, right? Was that in Indonesia, or was that somewhere else? Sorry, no, that was actually Oceania. Sorry, near like Fiji.
Okay,
I think it was.
Okay,
yeah.
And so, like in all of this, like what would you have said? What would you say is like I don't know, most worrying part of all this for you? Like, I mean, you're on a boat in open straits, going to visit peoples that are very, very nice, but who knows? You can't predict people always. There's erupting volcanoes. Was there any point of this where you were actually worried and about the consequence of one of the moments that you found yourself in?
Not sure what you mean. Scared? Yeah, sure. The
Scared.
sea is terrifying. You're crossing big chunks of sea, and but it. Yeah.
Apart from let's say then,
scared for myself. I'm often scared,
apart from the one with the crocodile, then were there any moments like what were like the really difficult like moments, experiences that you may have come across, or was it actually quite plain sailing, would you say, from beginning to end, apart from the hole in the next to where you've been sitting? Or uncomfortable situations, like even just like
So
having to do a poo over the side of the
so the crocodile was one which was years ago, like I don't know, 8 years ago or something like that, which was a swimming thing. And the one in the canoe was much more recent. It was 4 years ago, something like that. So different.
Well,
They both had their own challenges. I don't know.
yeah.
Anytime. So both of those were sea-based. So anytime you're faced with crossing a big lump of water, there's issues, and you're in small. Well, I was in a very slow-moving craft in one of them, and I was this very slow.
The other. That's crazy.
And so you can't really fight very strong winds. You can't really fight very strong currents. They're just stronger than you. You just get blown. You just get carried. So yeah.
In those moments, do you just have to basically try, or do you just hope?
So the main thing is you try not to be there.
Okay.
You try not to get caught in it.
Okay.
You try not to get caught out. When you are caught out, well, do whatever you can, innit?
Yeah.
Fight. Normally, giving up doesn't help much. So at least, vaguely trying to push yourself in the right direction, might have a small chance of
increase the probability.
Yeah,
Had
like
anyone
you
told
might as
you?
well.
Yeah.
Otherwise, just wait for death. That doesn't sound like fun.
No, not at all.
But were there were serious points whilst you were rowing? I like that, where you were being swept off course or swept out to sea or something like that. Or
there are times when paddling when I was I thought the main times are the straits. So the Komodo Strait was very hard. Komodo Strait, partly it was all about timing. It was all about when do the tides change, so that the sea calms down, and it's not like 6 knots in that direction, but it's actually maybe 2 knots in that direction, and then it changes to it, and then there's like various different, and it's a big old
spinning mass.
Yeah, there's whirlpools and everything there. It's a mad place.
Yeah. Have people died doing this?
Oh, very
before?
much. Yeah. Oh, well, no. What do you mean doing this? I people
mean,
tend to. Yeah. Locals,
like,
yeah, absolutely.
Like going out to sea on boats, on boats.
Very much so.
Really?
Wow. Very much so. Oh, yeah.
Had you been warned before you went by locals, like saying, "Why are you doing this?" Or
there's lots of great coral reefs around there, and so they so if you're a diver, these seas are a very a prime diving area, because there are some coral reefs which are unbelievable just east of Komodo, and you have to go I think at the right time of year, certainly with people who know, and certainly at the right time of day, at the right time of month. And everyone
why? Otherwise it's dangerous.
Everyone talks about the currents. Everyone, you've never seen currents like it. And you have to grab hold of a rock or a rope or something underwater and being like holding on for dear life.
Wow, my God.
And that kind of thing. I didn't do any diving there. I just saw it on top of my canoe. And the you can see the currents, the streams of water that it's calm, white water, like think white water rafting kind of thing
in the middle of the
for 100 meters, and then calm. It's nuts. Like you see these rivers of water streaming from one ocean to the other.
Oh,
Yeah,
what?
that's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh man! And you have all this on video.
and then like unfortunately on video you can only kind of see it. There are certain.
You were saying something way more exciting, and then what?
Uh,
Sorry, I didn't mean to break your thing.
I don't know what I was saying.
The streams of water, and then there's whirlpools and
whirlpools and all of these things, and and then half an hour later, it's calm, and then a few hours later, there's another one somewhere else, and
oh my God.
they change and swap and change around these clumps of land.
Wow.
It's mega interesting. At the same time, it's if you're caught in it, you're worrying hard.
So you did you did like a bunch of these, right? So like after the first one, were you more confident for the second one, or was it kind of like, oh, that again? Like now I know what that is.
Confidence doesn't really help you. It can work against you. At one point I got the timing wrong by an hour, and I found myself in very tricky waters. I just being dragged behind me towards the out. Or actually, it was into the funnel of them. Because I was in one funnel and it was taking me into the bigger funnel.
So when you say funnel, you mean like
I mean just the gap between islands.
A gap between the islands. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so it's pushing you through one of the gaps into the next set
into a bigger one. Yeah.
Into a bigger one. Woof.
Yeah. Which I don't
Sounds
know.
Exhausting.
Yeah. Completely. You're paddling like crazy the whole time. But at the same time, you've also trained for it by doing the last 1,000 kilometers or whatever. So
did you train for this, by the way? Did you, before you left for the trip, were you training at home, like on the rowing machine?
No. Also, this is paddling, which is very different from rowing. It's different. Okay. It's a different kind of like.
But I mean, just for your own endurance, sake of endurance.
No.
Really? No. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
But is that just because you're generally quite fit anyway?
Yes.
I don't think I was.
That when you just did that crazy 1,000 kilometers of paddling from nothing.
I don't think I was unfit, but but at the same time, it's not someone who's not fit, who's unfit, who's done paddling for a month, will out paddle, like just destroy an Ironman marathoner who's never paddled before.
Because of the particular muscles and movements you need.
It's about your it's about, I guess, muscle memory or something like that. Your body becomes primed for a certain type of movement. By the end of my swimming, at the beginning of my swimming, I told you that I swam across that first bay where I'd been worried about the buaya. And that was a 12-hour swim. I ended up doing no, it wasn't. I don't think it was. Maybe. I think I wanted it to be like a
12 hours,
like a 16-kilometer swim or something like that. And I don't think it was 12 hours. It was probably like 10 hours. Because I think I got slightly faster later on. So I was doing about 2 kilometers an hour. At the beginning, it was probably quite a bit. Yeah, a bit less. But anyway. And at the end of that, I was destroyed. I mean, I had to rest for like 4 days. I was lucky that I arrived in a lovely village with lovely people, etc. So I just crashed in their house, got fed like a king, etc. It was
nice.
Sounds nice.
But I was completely dead. By the end, a few months on, a 12-hour day. I'm not saying it was an easy day, but I could just, do 12 hours, get up out of the water and go,
wow,
have a coffee with someone and get back in the water. Like it was just okay. It was just, I'm not saying it was easy. I'll never say that swimming 12 hours is easy, but it wasn't, it wasn't draining. It wasn't destroying. It was just like, okay, I'm used to it.
I'm just gonna, did you feel like Like
I did 30 hours at one point straight.
Oh god.
Wow.
This-
What?
Yeah, so that's a different
That's
story.
overnight.
Yeah,
So how did you navigate during this time?
I could see the land. It's fine. It's easy.
The moon.
Even in the middle of the night?
Oh,
Did
can
you
see
use the stars at some point?
You can see the
Yeah.
stars. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I did a lot of
So
night swimming.
you've-
Night swimming is great because you don't have to deal with the sun. The sun is a bastard.
Yeah,
So I'm
that's
swearing a lot here. I don't know how much swearing you like in the
It's
podcast.
fine.
The demographics is usually about 8-year-old children, 10-year-old children.
Good,
So please
good. All right,
keep it.
sorry.
No, no.
Go hard. Teach them early.
As rude as you want.
Yeah, so night swimming was great because you're quite far south. You're not far off from the hole in the ozone. So the sun is extraordinarily harsh. I'm white. So
by the end of it, you were red then.
red.
At the end of every day, I would have skin peeling off so you have to learn tactics to protect yourself from the sun, which include spreading thick grease impregnated with iron oxide all over your face so you're a scarecrow.
Oh wow.
And etc. Where was I going there? Night swimming is great because of that. In the night, as long as you can see where you're going.
When you say night swimming, you mean the paddling, the rowing?
No, swimming.
Paddling.
No, swimming.
So I'm swapping between trips here. One is
swimming.
swimming, one was back to. But I did both, paddling and
this
swimming.
30 hours in Albania, or was it in Indonesia?
Indonesia.
Okay. And doesn't it become more frightening when you can't see? Because at night, at least on land, all the scary things come to life. All the snakes become more active, predators tend to become more active. So nighttime on land, you kind of want to be on your camp with a fire. So when is it similar in the sea? Does it become more of an active place, kind of, but you can't see it anymore? Or is it calmer? Do you feel
definitely
safer?
the first times that you do it, I was not particularly enjoying it. I don't know. You get used to it, I guess. No, but there's tough moments at whatever.
Did you see anything in the water at night or during day? Any cool stuff?
Oh, lots. I mean, yeah, it's a very rich sea over there. You've got outrageous coral reefs. Probably, some of the most rich in the world. Other times, unfortunately, you're swimming over white coral reefs, all bleached, all destroyed.
Oh no.
Yeah, it hits there as well. But other times you're swimming for the whole day over the most and swimming, not just just going in a direction. I'm trying to do it, my mile.
Wait a minute, but you're still on your boat. You're still talking about the going to Indonesia. Sorry,
he's swapping between them. I'm swapping between them.
He's
that.
But the thing is, just to give also like some more context to this, when you're swimming, you actually have some like when we hike, we have like backpacks, right? We need stuff to take with us. But you actually have this or some stuff inside a bag that's attached to a string to your foot. So you're actually swimming with this thing dragging behind you.
Waist, not foot.
Waist. Okay, waist.
Yeah.
Sorry, because you can't kick then. So I haven't done much of this. I just put it on your foot. It's fine. Exactly. So there's something suspended beneath your waist, causing drag, I guess, as well on top of this.
Something suspending. Kind of like pulling you back a little bit.
So it's actually even harder.
It's you're slowed down by quite a lot.
So with my question, sorry, was that what are you saying when you swam you saw cool stuff? What about when you
see much more when you're underwater than when you're up the water, because when you're above the water you can only see it's not the same.
But did you see any cool stuff then when you were on the boat in the Indonesian, in the Straits, going between the
Yeah,
islands of
in
Indonesia?
the Straits.
Because also that was what that 30-hour period was. That was in Indonesia, right?
That
On the
was in
boat.
Indonesia. That was swimming, not on the boat.
That
On
was
the
swimming for
Yeah.
30 hours.
We've gone around that like a bunch of
Yeah.
times.
I'm so confused right now. Wait a minute. I thought Indonesia was purely on a boat.
No, there was 2 trips to Indonesia. One, so I went the first
One with the
time
crocodile was,
8
yeah.
years
Oh
ago
yes,
when I
yes,
swam
yeah.
in the Northeast. The other time, sorry, I made a mess. The other time was in the
Was
Southeast.
when you saw the croc. Yeah.
No, yeah, that was swimming crocodile. Southeast, the Lesser Sunda Islands, where the human migration was.
That's on the boat.
That's on the canoe.
Yeah. Okay, but sorry, I that I know. But the 30-hour stretch, that was in Indonesia when you were swimming the first trip.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I thought that was one of the stretches on the boat.
No, on the boat, I don't think I paddled for more than, maybe 15, 20 hours, the longest. Not even 20, 15.
Okay.
Probably
15
15.
hours
But then,
non-stop paddling.
But
That's
30
so much.
hours
Yeah, but
in
also
the
like
water. Wow.
Yeah. Paddling is kind of more chill because you're on a boat and you can, you just stop and have a snack kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just in the whirlpool right now. This is 360 views. Just quick chocolate bar.
I mean, when you got out of the water after being there for 30 hours, was your body like completely shriveled and like
like a potato?
Yeah, shriveled a bit. I mean, I don't think you're more shriveled than if you spend like, I don't know, 8 hours. Your mouth is a joke. You can't really taste for the next day. It's all
salted
and it's stinging. It's stinging. It's like no, I was extraordinarily broken after 30 hours of swimming. I couldn't walk for like 2 days. And didn't, all I did was sleep and eat a bit, and sleep and eat. And
by the end of a trip like this, though, where you spend so much time in the water and you're getting more and more familiar with it, do you feel like at home in the water at any point, or is it always a foreign place?
Oh, you definitely feel at home. You feel at home in the water within. Yeah, you definitely.
Really?
So, I mean, depends what you mean. But feel at home in the water. I'll happily, swim out a couple of kilometers, and as long as I know that the conditions are good, I'll bob around there and love it.
Okay.
Depends.
Would you like miss it? Like when you come back to land, it's like, oh, this is now a strange place for me. I'm now a fish. It sounds silly, but then somebody who hasn't swum like that for that length of time, like for example, if I'm in the mountains for a long time walking around, when I leave the mountains, I feel like I'm in a foreign place now. It feels like something's wrong, like it's a different landscape. I'm not familiar. Or if you enter a city after a long trip outdoors, the city just feels wrong. It feels, it feels like it's trapping you. Spending so much time in the water, is there like a similar contrast?
Maybe. I will say that sometimes you want to come onto land and there's a village that you think that might be nearby, and struggling through sharp, prickly rainforest is a nightmare. And that if I was in the water, I would just be swimming. Right? It's just there's nothing in the way. It's just I don't know if I have anything particularly clever to say to that.
No, I mean, I have had an experience like that, but that was because feel free to edit this out if you want to, but psychedelic experience.
No, this is ideal for the 8-year-olds.
Teach them early.
Psychedelics.
I remember just like seeing the water and be like, I just really want to be out there at the moment right now. And this is coming from someone who's terrified of, and it was at nighttime, of deep dark blue water, and I just strolled out and was just floating on the water.
You actually went out. Nice.
Yeah. And I just,
Wow.
I don't know how long I
Overcame
stayed
your
out there,
fear.
but I was just looking at the sky, not looking what was underneath me and just floating. Because I'm even though I'm scared of swimming out in deep blue, I'm quite a proficient swimmer, I would say, at least anyway, and I can float with just just keeping my body straight, my toes sticking out the water.
High BMI.
Or maybe I wasn't, who knows? But maybe I just thought I was
80%.
Yeah.
Fat.
I was actually still on land
20%
on the beach.
lunge.
But yeah,
I got chubbier swimming. I think I wonder whether so there's two options here. Either it's just because I ate like a pig, which is probably true.
yeah.
Good. But I think there was a kind of a body reaction to being in the water so long that it figured out that it was better for me to have more fat on me.
Interesting.
I mean, I didn't get fat,
The
but
signal would have been.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
But but we definitely have certain signals. If you put the water on around your face, your cheeks, or whatever, your breathing system changes, something like that.
Really?
Yeah. We have some actual physiological reaction to touching water. Your skin or certain parts of your skin realizes when you're touching water or not.
Wow.
I'm not going to go into the water ape hypothesis, but yeah, we certainly.
I don't know about this hypothesis, but is
The
that
water ape hypothesis? Very briefly, is it's not really followed by many people though. Is that humans had a semi-aquatic ancestor, as in instead of the story is the general accepted one is that we came down to run in the savannas. Well, the water ape theory says something like we came down to become more aquatic, so we live kind of on in between, like I guess the rivers and stuff like not underwater, not living in the water, but like interacting
like Okavango Delta or something. Is it like this idea that when you see the apes or the chimpanzees wading through the water with their hands in the air? Yeah.
That's part of it. Also, we lost our fur. What other animals have lost their fur? Well, it's either the mammals that swim in the sea, or things like elephants and rhinos and hippos, which have all had very semi-aquatic.
Yes, it's true.
And a few other things. The breeding one is one of them.
Interesting.
Yeah. But again, I don't. Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
I mean,
I'm not good. I don't have.
It's an idea. It's a fun idea. Like
I don't have a dog in the fight. Yeah. But yeah,
just a seal. And so I mean that's okay. And so I wonder. And by the way, for those wondering why we're talking about fat, it's because fat's like quite buoyant, and people who are chubbier tend to find it easier to swim because they can float more.
To counter this though, it's not but instead of being more buoyant for swimming, I spent time with some Bajo people in Indonesia, who are a tribe who
I think I know this.
Who
no way
have spent a lot of time over thousands of years, probably tens of thousands of years, diving. And they've developed denser bones. I think they've got also a difference in the blood. I'm not sure, but
genetically they have actual genetic differences now, which allow them to metabolize oxygen differently and spend longer times underwater than any other human. Like they are aquatic, as close as you can get to aquatic humans.
These are guys that sometimes you see, like
insane.
I've seen they're walking on the bottom of the sea with like these tiny little goggles and spear fishing. That's insane. You met those people?
I mean, they're spread quite far and wide throughout Indonesia. They're a seafaring people. Everyone in Indonesia we've spoken the whole time about Indonesia, and I'm happy about this because I love that country. But yeah, yeah,
yeah, for many. Actually, to be honest, it was going to be my next question. Like, I know we spoke a lot about Indonesia, but like, how many other places have you gone to? But first, finish the story about what's these people called?
The Bajo.
Bajo.
So, Indonesia is split up into everyone more or less identifies as being from a suku, which the translation is something like tribe or people or something like that. So I am of suku Bajo or suku Bungin or there's lots. And the Bajo are a water-based tribe historically, so they've
never lived
on around. They used to live at sea, live on boats. These days, I think there's still one or two groups of people who live like that. They tend to now live in villages, very often on stilts in the water, just off land.
This is a political thing, right? Because the Indonesian government wants to be able to like record them and have them registered.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a lot of that. It was definitely a political. Indonesia's, had a lot of issues in the last, since it's been a country. I mean, since before that, but since it's been a country, it's, had to figure things out for itself, rather than, just have, the colony master just to say, whatever, the people over there, they weren't so important,
exactly. Whereas
so now it's a real country, and now it's having to fend for itself, and so it's had its own kind of issues with they tried a thing of transmigration where they take people from over populated areas and taking them. Anyway,
that was a big
it's huge.
Massive.
How old is Indonesia as a country?
Instability for that for a while.
It was more or less since the Second World War. In the Second World War, it was taken by Japan. And then after that, the Dutch tried to regain control, and it didn't last long. I think it was very soon after that it kind of fell apart.
So basically, before that, it was just a collection of tribes.
Well,
on islands.
So when
So
depends what you mean by tribes, because some of those, there are some ruins there from thousands of years ago, which are not built by, a little tribe. They're built by an empire. There's it had several, hordes of people coming in from different parts of the world, sometimes invading, sometimes trading, but it's had kind of lots of influences from around. So from like the Arabs arrived before that, from India. There was obviously so I mean lots came in, and then it was the turn of the Europeans. So it was the Portuguese first, and then the Dutch. The Dutch spent the most time there, I think, or at least in recent centuries.
Interesting. And so is that what kind of brought all of these islands together as something that is now a country? Is what the limits of the Dutch colonies in that region?
That's a good question. I think it was more or less defined by the Dutch, yes, because then Malaysia was British, and I think so. And then Timor-Leste was
French,
Portuguese.
Okay.
I think it's that. Okay. You're right.
I mean,
anyway.
Yeah.
You must have had an interesting conversation when you met my father about the ancient civilizations in or that bigger ancient structure which they found out was a pyramid in Java, Gunung Padang or something, that possibly dated to 14,000 or 20,000 years ago. Did that come up?
I remember this one. Maybe. Gunung Padang.
I mean, if
Uh,
go on. I was gonna say, like, if you don't have much to say on that, we could bring this full circle now, because the beginning of this recording was all about this suicide sex thing, and that emanates from your conversation, Francesco, with Mike's dad as well. Yeah.
I mean, suicide sex and Gunung Padang.
Very, very, like, I can see the link there. Not tenuous at all.
I chatted to him a lot about ancient or kind of old, ancient seafaring civilizations.
Yes, true.
I don't know if Gunung Padang came up. I don't know what Gunung Padang is.
Okay. I mean, no, I mean, I assume possibly because you were talking about very ancient civilizations or empires, so to speak, that would have built these ancient structures in there. So I thought maybe this one would have been something that you would have discussed with him. And I mean, I especially that hit me because I love ancient history anyway, and the idea that there was a lost pyramid or something that people used to think was a hill, but then found out relatively recently it was actually a pyramid. That dates back to possibly 14 or 20,000 years ago. It's just mind blowing. I'm just like, it's like, wow,
using LiDAR or something.
So cool.
Is that in Sumatra, in like the
Java?
Padang region? In Java.
Okay. Like I think it's only a few miles away from Jakarta, maybe 15 miles or something like that.
So I just want to, like, I think all this was related to your time with the seafaring peoples and of Indonesia. And so did you go diving with them? I think is kind of
very much so, yeah. I spent a while with them.
How was that?
Tough. I mean they're very skilled at it.
Even genetically, you have some. Yeah, exactly.
It's bonkers. You're kicking your feet a little bit to stay up, but if you stop, you kind of go into this weird semi-floating thing, or you can puff up your chest and float properly. They just sink.
Wow.
They just sink.
They don't use any weights or anything whatsoever.
Nothing.
Wow.
Really?
But then are they good at swimming too at the same time, or are they just good at being like on the bottom of the water?
They are fish.
Seriously?
They're so good. Yeah, they're amazing at swimming. I mean, it's not like they're good at swimming. If you put them in a 100-meter sprint, I don't think they'd fare very well. But that's they've never trained for that. What they train for, or what they do on a daily basis, is go catch fish, and they catch fish extraordinarily well. I spent a while with this guy called Omba, which is funny because it means wave. This guy was called Wave. And I was swimming with his, I think, nephew, who was like, I want to say 9, maybe 9. And we both have our, spear gun. And I'd go out and I'd be super happy about having caught like, 4 little fucking, and he'd come back with, 3 octopus, 2 kilo octopus, and half a dozen fish that I don't know where he was finding them. I don't know where he was seeing them, let alone catching them. I have no idea.
Was he not too far away from you as well?
We were swimming like almost within, like certainly within shouting distance, but like within
shouting distance underwater.
Like I could see him most of the time.
And he was just finding these fish.
Where? I just don't know where. I'm still so frustrating.
Trolling it down on the bottom of this like seabed with your spear gun.
I guess octopus, and I chased it, and I and he just got like catch 3 on a day. It's time for octopus.
I know
But
exactly.
I guess he was staying down for longer as well. You going up for air every now and then. He was still down there.
Yeah. He was much more adept at holding
How
breath.
long can
They
you?
don't do it though. They don't. It's
Yeah.
not like they. It's not that they, or at least where I was, probably it varies from place to place, etc. But there was abundance there, so there's no need to hold your breath for 5 minutes and stay underwater for 5 minutes. They might do it for two. They might stay underwater for two, and they come back up. And
how long could they stay underwater for though? Like, and the children as well.
I mean,
What's the longest you saw them underwater for?
Not more than two.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's still a long time anyway.
It's a long time. Certainly, I wouldn't. So if I was on land, I can hold my breath for two minutes. If I'm 20 meters underwater,
kicking,
I'm already panicking. The moment I reach, there's the place where you stop having to fight to go down. You become dense enough that you don't. At the moment I'm there, I'm not happy.
Oh yeah, that must be scary.
I know that as well.
Sinking
now. And you look up and you're kind of like almost running out of breath, and you're like, oh my god, there's so much water above me, and you're so much, like, fuck, I need to go back up.
And you must feel the resistance as well, like when you're walking on the bottom like that, because there's so much water above you that you must feel like the weight of it all.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean,
it must be hard.
It's not like I spent a long time walking around on the seafloor. I don't do that. I'm not at this level. Have a look around.
How did you?
When I'm catching fish, I'm not catching it at 20. I'll if anything, it will be 4, 5, etc. Which is silly, because probably it would be easier if it was a little bit lower, so because you don't have to fight coming back up. But hey,
how did you arrange to stay with these guys or like spend time with them?
Did you just see them and can I stay here? Oh, thanks. I can just put my hammock here. Yeah, thanks. Or I could say with your house. Oh, yeah, okay. That is how long. Well, pretty much. I mean, the conversation is a little bit longer because they're curious about who you are and what's your name, and do you have a wife, and do you have children, and do you have what's your job, etc., etc. There's a whole standard conversation that you go through. But in terms of like, where am I going to stay, it's kind of like, can I stay here or can I stay with you? It's this.
Okay, amazing.
That is the kind of traveling which and the kind of experience that no travel agency or anything can ever give you, right? That is just like pure traveling at its purest. Pure traveling at its purest.
We have a poet here.
It's probably some lands and some cultures are probably much more conducive to it than others.
Of course, yeah.
In general, I reckon it's probably more or less possible to do. I'm not going to say anywhere because it's not anywhere. But humans do have that kind of natural want to meet others and to have connection.
I think also instinct comes into it a lot, where you would meet these people and instinctively you would feel this is something that I can do here as well. But I mean, Indonesia for sure. I mean, from my own experience, like I was saying before, I don't think I fully explained it, but I would meet someone and it would just be at the hotel, and they would introduce me to someone, and they would take me on this long trip around Indonesia, and then they would kind of pass me over to someone else and say, oh, this guy will look after you, by the way. And then you become good friends with that guy, and they take you on a long trip. They even took me, then that person that I was introduced to then took me on a 7-day hike into the rainforest in Sumatra. They were basically our guides, set up our camps for us. And then we went hiking elsewhere, and then they introduced our other friends. I was just blown away by how nice people are in Indonesia.
You know what strikes me as surprising here, though, like, I mean, and it might be because of the seafaring culture, because you have a bunch of islands. Normally, islands create separation. When you have separation, you have tribes that want to preserve the boundaries of their space, and when there's crossover, there's normally war and conflict. In South America,
there has been lots.
A lot, right? And so it's kind of interesting how they're still open, even though culturally I expect them to be quite aggressive or not really interested in people, especially like disease as well, right? Like where people are wary of each other, because normally in the past, if two groups of people crossed each other,
so
transmitted disease and wipe out the other population.
It's a little bit perhaps like India. So there is lots, I said. There was lots, is more accurate. India, I mean, you, I'm sure, know a lot more than me, so stop me when I go off. But you used to have these warring tribal cities, these warring kind of mini nations, and one would try and invade the other, and they'd have slightly different religions and slightly different
languages.
The British got there, and the British took over everything. And then as soon as there would be any of this, they would, the British would be very, quite destructive and, reprimanding. But and therefore India, therefore the modern India, which is one, and it's not one because obviously Pakistan and East Pakistan, Bangladesh split. But there was a much more technologically powerful force that arrived there and then said no, not allowed, and over time this has kind of led to a one India kind of thing, an India that is more cohesive and that doesn't have so much interfighting between, I don't know, Gujarat and Rajasthan or Jaisalmer and
principalities even. Okay, so then the link over to Indonesia is what, that the Dutch
were there, and all they wanted was, they were probably even worse than the British in terms of caring about the locals, the natives, and all they cared about was the spices and a few minerals, a few other things, mainly the spices. And so they took a lot, and when there was, when someone caused a fuss, they would go there and be very colonialist about it. I think there's a kind of a bitterness in Indonesia about the fact that they were invaded by the Dutch, not the British. It's a weird one. They say, look at Malaysia, like it's now so, it's so well into it's got such good infrastructure, etc. They left a language there as well. The Dutch came over and all they did was occupy, take all our stuff, and they didn't build anything here.
No, it's a weird thing over here as well in Colombia, because of course nobody is happy about like the history of colonization. But when they come to it, they also say the British tried so hard to break like the walls of Cartagena. Why couldn't they make it? Like, because we'd have at least had like they love the Spanish language, but nothing really much else. Like we'd have had trains and infrastructure and all these kinds of things. Now I'm not making an advert.
Is there like still a like
part of like the global economic,
Is there still hard feelings for the Spanish? Like if I was Spanish and were to go there, would I be?
No, I think if you were Spanish and you were to come here, it would be fine. But a lot of Colombians who, when they go to Spain, they still look down upon, and there is
they are looked down upon, or they look down upon.
No, I want to say they feel, because I'm not a Latin American going to Spain, but from what I understand, they feel as if the Spanish still look down on They're people from the ex-colonies, basically. And there's still it's still hard feelings, right? Like recently they had the new president be inaugurated here, and the Spanish king came. And when he said, when you have to when he was giving the initial speech, he mentioned the names of all the different leaders that were present, and he got booed. Spanish king got booed, and he's the only one. Also, the Spanish king was the only one that didn't stand for the president, the new president here. All the other Dominican Republic, Peru, everyone else that was here stood, but he didn't stand. So it's still tense. It's still tense, and the colonial history is still there, and yeah, I mean, I guess like in terms of like economics, yeah, of course, different colonies look around the world and see like how connected India and Hong Kong and Singapore and all these ex-British colonies are. And the reason why I say is that for all the focus of the British, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but the focus was different for the British Empire. It was trade. They cared about trade and connecting the world and making money. They didn't care about anything else. Whereas everyone else seemed to be more like kind of civilization building. British didn't care. Like India there's no British genetics left in India, and people speak English, but there's not like a huge swath of Christianity. They're the Christians in India, Portuguese colonies, right? They seem to
but Portuguese
in Africa
is
maybe
kind
a
of
bit different.
similar, isn't it? Like the Portuguese and the Dutch, they weren't going out there to sow their seed. They were going to get the fruits of the land and pull it out
and bugger off. I thought that's what you were saying. And then, but the British
this is what I was
left some kind of infrastructure, at least anyway. But I guess you don't get trade unless you lay down some infrastructure then as well. I guess if you do that, you have trains and everything, then it makes transportation of all those goods a bit easier to the shipping hubs or whatever. And then,
do you know, like I'm not making the argument that like the British cared much about the peoples or anything like that. It's just that the main focus was on making money. Making money, whereas others seem to be also focused on spreading. I mean, I guess if
an ideology
they were part of ideologies and stuff. I guess if you were part of the Catholic Church at the time, that would have been your way of building that infrastructure in this new country that gives you the power over that place. Maybe that they use that tool, but that tool was a bit more blunt compared to.
Honestly, I find that the ideology spreading so much more perverse than the trade. At least the trade is kind of like straight down the line.
That's what I mean.
What we care about is money.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I find I personally, I'm
because I think with trade, at least you're like
of religions. They're interesting and beautiful, culturally fascinating. Until you get to missionaries, at that point, fuck off. Just fuck off. I'm not going to be on board with you. I just go away.
Yeah, because at that point you're almost eliminating whatever religion or culture that there was there, and that's what makes that place interesting. Whereas probably if you're wanting to trade, you're acknowledging what is in abundance there and what is that culture there, I guess, and saying, oh, you have this, your culture has produced this, and so we want it as well, basically. But maybe I
don't know, because the more actually that we talk about this, the more I don't know exactly what because there were missionaries also with the British Empire, of course. I mean, the first people who landed in the US were missionaries. Africa was large, but that continent was largely, religion was leveraged there. They would give people positions of power who were converted to Protestantism. So I don't know. I think it's just a big diverse mess. But now that I think about it, but there was a difference. I do feel like there was the legacy is different. Like the British didn't leave food. They didn't leave really
They didn't have any food.
They didn't have any food to leave. Like
and they kind of did. Also, they did. They left chai. I mean, chai didn't really exist before the British came over and took all the tea from China and brought it to India and said, "Look, we like this bland shit." I mean, like, what is this? Add pepper to it now. Part of the sugar.
Yeah, basically you made it into a curry. So like I think so. So here's the thing about that, like the harsh thing. So like what they needed was this huge Indian workforce to also be drinking the product as well that they're producing, and then you also then you give the money back that you're being paid back to the people, you know, that you're working for. And so there were, apparently the story goes that huge working population of the tea plantations were made to drink tea. You know, it was something that they had to do, and then they decided from that, you know, so this is where it all becomes, and then they decided from that, well, you know what, I'm gonna boil milk so thick it's basically a soup, make a lassi out of this thing, add 500 different spices and a ton of sugar, and now we have something. You know. Yeah, it's an interesting. Yeah, come.
Sugar. What sugar did they use? What sugar would they have had? Was
Sugar
it cane?
Was it? Is from India. It's
okay,
wild in India. Yeah,
okay.
Sugarcane is wild in India. So in that great exchange between South America, Europe, the old world and new world, corn and stuff like tomatoes chilies came to India, and all the sugarcane stuff came the other way. You know.
Did not know that. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah. So we've been sweetening our foods.
That's why such sugary food.
Yeah. We didn't have to go running around trying to find beehives just to make a cake. Yeah, exactly. Okay, cool. I think there are many more adventures. So we haven't even talked about Albania yet. We haven't talked about your rowing adventures or climbing or many of the other things, but I think there'll be other episodes where we can. This was Indonesia, I guess. And then there'll be many other episodes. And actually, I'll be interested in picking up on this conversation about the world's colonies. Like as I spoke about it, I realized I need to think about this a bit more, what the differences were. But there certainly were differences. And
I have an idea as well. I think like why maybe there was less ideological spreading, religious spreading with the coming from the English. I think the English have always had a kind of tenuous relationship with religion, with the maybe Catholic, with the Pope, and you know the Civil War. Was it the Civil War? The War of Roses, Cromwell, Henry VIII. You know, I think it's got quite a long history of kind of breaking away from the church and everything as well.
Yeah, but it also has a long history
of secular.
Yeah, but it wasn't back then. I don't think. It wasn't back then. It was like Cromwell was like a mad fanatic, and he was using Protestantism as a new tool to galvanize the British against the rest of the countries.
But maybe exactly. So he wasn't doing that from a religious point of view. He was a mad fanatic, and religion was just used as a kind of a tool. I mean, it's a very
exactly.
It's a very unreligious country, right? Compared to half of the rest of Europe. It's
exactly.
Well, no, but I would say that all the Protestant places are now much less religious. In Holland, I mean the Netherlands, Germany, France, which is Catholic, but you know, still France. All the Nordic countries are like more than 50% atheists now. And that has an interesting history of probably Protestantism being a reaction. God, are we going to go down? So Protestantism has, if I'm going to find a way to simplify this, it was really, really good for commerce because it allowed countries to be independent, basically, of the Catholic Church, and allowed, and in part was about you coming to the Bible directly. So you didn't have a priest who had, everything wasn't in Latin, and you needed a priest to understand your religion. You could actually now read it in your own language, which is part of it. So therein came like this ability to do trade, have more individualism in your countries, and that's opened the gates basically for science, and basically now we have loads of money in these countries, and we have science, and we don't need to pay any attention to religion, and that's what's happened. But in the Catholic countries, it's still pretty Catholic, you know, because they were never really allowed to. They never really had that dynamic forming over the last hundreds of years. And
but then France.
But then
You know,
France,
like,
but they had their own, they're very interesting.
they had their own,
revolutions.
yeah.
Also Italy as well, right? No, like during the period of the Enlightenment as well, there were so many
yes, but there was
polymaths as well,
and
artists.
Sure, but they also had a lot of infight. They never, it was never an empire. They never got big. It was, you had these one or two great minds scattered around, but one would be part of Venice, and Venice was, to be fair, its own thing.
Genoa.
But it was never its own country until very recent.
It's quite recent as well, isn't it?
Thing, and you're a mathematician, Francesco, so you might already like appreciate to know this. So the coolest thing I've one of the coolest things I've ever heard is that in Italy there used to be like kind of these mathematicians battles. So somebody would come up with some sort of a new equation or something, and he'd reserve it because he'll come into a battle with another mathematician, like a bloody anime, and then they would like whip out these equations, and then the most powerful one, or like we hailed as like the master mathematician. That's how you kind of upranked as a mathematician.
Very good. Bring it back.
Gosh, I did. Just exclude me if you ever decide to do one of those. My maths is appalling.
1 + 1 equals 1 squared.
Window.
No, it doesn't. So what the hell am I talking about? 1 + 0 equals okay. But
Oh, actually, if we all ever want to talk about something, I didn't know you were a mathematician, but if we want to ever talk something kind of like philosophical. One of my very interesting documentaries I saw was the BBC documentary on whether mathematics is something that is natural or man-made.
Oh, we've had this. Yeah. Francesco got some thoughts on that for sure.
That'd be cool. Can we have a podcast on that then?
I think we should do a bunch, and I think what. So wait. We let's do concluding remarks on this whole thing, and then I have a chance to edit that into the back, and then we can talk about all the potential future episodes, because I'm guessing we're going to edit all this kind of drifty stuff.
At some point, Michael, I also want to ask you about Japanese. I'm in the process of wanting to learn Japanese. I've like begun, just started. And I assume
I'm still learning Japanese as well, even though I've lived here for 5 years. But I mean, I'm not fluent, but I can get by.
Right.
I'm also just starting to want to take it a bit more seriously now as well. So
the only reason why I want to conclude remarks is that if I would have to listen to all of this and try and find a point to edit it out, it's going to take.
Okay. So let's rewind a moment. You can cut all this stuff out.
Yeah, exactly. So like, okay, so I guess how do I end this one?
I mean, it's a fascinating journey.
Right, thought for the day.
Thoughts for the day, and then exactly.
Right.
Francesco, what's the thought? Why does it have to be one thought? I don't know. What are the concluding remark?
So the sea is a giant mass of water, and some of it is a bit salty.
Some of it is a bit salty. That's the biggest thought. What?
And never assume that crocodiles are just in the rivers and just they're, and if you see a coral floating out or a piece of wood, swim the other way quickly.
Just don't swim towards it.
No. Definitely swim towards it.
Actually, yeah. If you swim away, you may not be.
I don't think I'd be alive if I hadn't. I think because it was stalking me. It was interested in me. It was
following you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was stalking me. Now, would it have eaten me? Maybe it would have decided not my day. I'm not hungry. But
sorry, actually, I won't ask. Well, I always thought saltwater crocodiles mainly don't hunt that much underwater. They kind of ambush predators outside of the water. But anyway,
generally yes, but I would have been very easy pickings for him.
That's true as well. Yeah.
Or her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So I met people who'd had relatives, etc., taken whilst fishing, spearfishing.
Really?
By crocodiles. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
You have had,
Yeah.
people whose relatives.
So yeah, well, Indonesians, because they do a lot of spearfishing, etc., and sometimes they go off on like huge like spearfishing trips for tends to be the budget for several months to gather a bunch of stuff, and then they dry it out on the boats and they sell it to China and Japan and stuff, and dried fish.
So,
And yeah,
Never come back.
no comeback. That someone sees the crocodile come and eat his friend or something. Yeah.
So concluding thought there is, use a canoe. That's what.
Concluding the thought, always swim towards crocodiles.
Yeah.
Always swim towards crocodiles, preferably in a canoe, where you can just
and one fascinating one I would say is also the ability to like the fact that you just turned up to these villages and said, hey, can I stay here with you guys? Can I come spearfishing with you guys? And you did. That's amazing. Amazing experience. I mean,
it's something that you
have to take into context.
Yeah, so partly is certainly it's not how cocky I would have been or how cocky I was when I was doing my first swim. Or when I was doing my swim in Indonesia, but I've gotten, but you kind of learn it there because you always get those invites. You always are, please, come, have tea, have biscuits, sit, talk with us. Do you have a place to stay tonight? So I've turned that into, I'm used to people treating me like that. So I'm, I guess, arrogant about it. I'll just assume when I go somewhere that I'll be able to stay, stay out.
To rent a donkey, for example, in the middle of an abandoned village. So I think we'll get to all those stories about and more in future episodes. We'll also have conversations about, Italian mathematics battles. If anyone hasn't heard from this, it's like a whole anime that happened in Italian history, and actually colonization. And I think that will be very interesting between the three of us, because we have an Indian, we have Britishness in the mix, Italian, Japanese, and so it's a great.
I will represent the colonizers purely.
Wow, so will I.
Yeah, true.
Unless, well, I guess so. I'm the only one who has moral worth.
As usual.
So I mean, like history is a messy one, and it's interesting, I think, to actually maybe talk about this. And then try and really understand, because I'm also in Latin America right now. It'd be kind of interesting to understand what the differences were really between the empires. So I think there's loads of interesting conversations to come up. And I guess until the next one.
Very good.
Cool.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao.